Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. The Fever lose 91 to 100 against the Los Angeles Sparks. And I am Mr. Positive, but I also like to feel like I'm also Mr. Realistic. So before we dive into this game, let's just get a few things out of the way. First off, this is the third game in a road stretch. So, third game on the road, the team's going to be tired. They're going to be a little bit behind potentially on defense, which appears was the case tonight. Although the Sparks did just shoot really well, but that's just going to happen. They're a professional team. They still should show up. They still put up 91 points, which is pretty good. And got at one point were within striking distance, especially if what we're going to talk about got turned over. But number two is the Los Angeles Sparks they're a good team. They're a good basketball team, and anyone that thinks otherwise, you're not watching them. You're not really paying attention because this team is 8-2 in their last 10 games. That's not a bad team. They've beaten good teams. They got Cameron Brink back, which by the way, tonight, what a rim defender, man. She's so freaking good. She is so good timing everything. She is a monster. Now she couldn't sink a shot, but those blocks were savage on us tonight, especially the one on Dantas that just put it right out of the game. And then the third thing is that Kelsey Plum is a flopper. Yes, you heard me right. Kelsey Plum, you're a flopper. I mean, come on. Oh my gosh, that play down the stretch when that ref called the foul from behind the play, and we were on it. We're storming ahead on our comeback. That would have been going the other way for 2 points easy, and we get robbed of it by just terrible officiating. And like I normally am not mad about a foul call, but that one got me. That one actually made me actually upset because man, that was just brutal. It's the bad call combined with the timing of it and what it meant to the game. And they had to pull, they were victory lapping on the bench up 22, and they had to pull all their starters back in and try to stave off defeat. So props to the Indiana Fever for fighting, and props to Kelsey Mitchell, who dropped 34, 7 for 12 from three, 6 assists, which to be clear, some of those assists were nasty. Top plays and one mixtape. Get them in there. They were absolutely amazing. And I think, maybe a little bit of time with Caitlin Clark and a little bit of time with Breon January for that passing has rubbed off, because I was wondering where all these one arm whip passes were coming from. And I've seen Breon January use them a lot in their warm up scenarios when she's warming up the players. So maybe that's a little bit where it started to really work in. But man, she's just becoming so good with them. And I trust her with them. Aaliyah Boston, 15 points, 9 rebounds. Wasn't her best shooting night. It was a tough rim protection night. She barely missed her double double, but I think she navigated pretty well on defense. She was so disruptive and such a pain, and absolutely a brick wall for Darica Hamby, who she beat whenever she was 1-on-1. But the help, defense, and length of the Sparks really paid off in this game. Natasha Howard, 17 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 monster block. Super absolutely like send Cameron Brink to the nether realm of the ground. Like even she was just like, dang, that's good. She was like looking up, smiling, like, holy crap, I just got absolutely rocked right there. And she, Tosh is again that player that is just consistently doing whatever the Fever need for that night. Thank goodness we have her, and we almost were able to pull it back thanks to her efforts, but not enough tonight. Ari, of course, came on late in this game in some really critical moments, hit some threes, 6 assists. I also love that she was able to drive, create penetration, and navigate all the really tall players in rim defense that even some of our other players, big players, could not navigate. And she just used her quickness, got to the rim, made some shots. Really proud of her for that. Sophie, gave us 8 points, 2 for 4 from three, was good in the first half, disappeared for the second half. And she was in there, had some steals and that kind of stuff, but really wasn't a huge scoring night from her. And I think with that, we don't have to talk about the rest of the players. We can just talk about some of the stuff. So I think one of the main things for me is I think that the Fever are going to lose most games. I think they have lost every game where a team shoots like 56% from the field, but importantly, shoots 13 for 26 from three. Like they were just making everything. And some of them were hard, amazing shots that were put up by the Sparks. But then some of them are 100% on the Fever. It's their fault that they are creating open looks. And number one on the scouting report is Azrae Stevens. I'm going to say it right this time. Azrae Stevens She is a player. The number one on the scout is don't leave her open on the wing or the corner. She is going to shoot a three. I would rather have them just let someone drive to the rim than to leave her open from three. And that sounds crazy, but it's not, because every time she got the ball on her spots, she made it. She was 100% tonight, 5 for 5 from three. And that's a lot of the ball game. Like, I would rather chip away and have a better position and let them take twos than to leave her wide open. And that has to be fixed in the defensive scheme. You can't be having those kinds of lapses in critical games like this. And I, I think that the other thing is that on the point of 3 pointers, like the Fever seemed to like just to be like carte blanche, like everybody chuck it up tonight. Like Natasha Howard was 0 for 3. She even shot the end shot at the end of the game, although she shouldn't have been taking that shot. That should have been Lexi Hull, which we'll get into. But the fact that even Hull was like 0 for 2 for the night going in, she should have taken a shot. You have to know time and possession, and players passing up open shots. I don't care. Like, no one cares on the team if you take an open shot and it doesn't fall. Like, that is just like, that is what you're supposed to do. We care if you take bad shots. We care if you do turnovers. They're ill timed and ill formed and not good. But Lexi Hull passing up that 3 pointer at the end of the game when it's her turn, she's open, the clock is ticking down. You have to score. You have to, you need more than one score, and time is the ticking in possessions, and you get a steal, you get in this great momentum position, and she doesn't pull the trigger, and we waste tons of time off the clock, and then we end with Tosh having to huck up a contested three. Like, that is how you don't win games. Like, those are the little stumbling things. This is a learning experience for the team, and I hope it's drilled into Hull, because she has definitely lost some mojo with her three. I mean, we're still going to her, we're still giving her looks, and if they don't fall, they don't fall. But girl, you gotta shoot. You gotta shoot, because we believe in you. You're due. You're 0 for 2. You're due for the third one. The third one's yours. And Aerie is a perfect example of a player that was 1 for 5, and then in that ending stretch hit back-to-back threes, and that is, that pulled us forward and made it a close game. And so you can't just be like, oh, well, I haven't been making, so I'm not going to pull the trigger. It's like, shooters got to shoot, and you got to shoot. You got to trust your shot. And if you're not trusting your shot, that is a problem. It's happening too much around kind of this Fever team in these clutch situations. And we got to clean up. Now, on top of that, Dantas, again, we're on Dantas watch here when she's having minutes. She only had 6 minutes, but she had negative minutes out on the floor. And that comes from the fact that she's 1 for 4 from shooting, 0 for 2 from three. We're still trying to force stuff into it. It's causing turnovers and other things that are happening. She is not performing well on defense. Like, she's getting blown by, like, bad. And so if that is kind of the minutes that are happening on the floor, like, this is not prime Dantas or what she could be. So we get to the coaching staff again and seeing something. But this kind of goes back to rotations that are going to be talked a lot about in this game. I'm sure that many people are going to harp on the rotations. And to be fair, some of the rotations and length of the rotations is purely going to come from the fact that, again, third road game, they need to rest players. They need to have them for that last push in the fourth quarter or what have you. And so the coaching staff and White is trying to manage that. Now, did they work out? No, they didn't. It was a failure. And I think that a lot of it needs to be not the question of who and why, but necessarily like, how are we using them when they're on the court? Because we know at some point we're going to have rotations where we don't have our starters in, right? And if our bench is cold and they're going to have a night like tonight, why is that? Why are they struggling? Why are we, what exactly is happening that we are not getting good looks? Like, who are we trying to run through in the Storm game? It felt like we were hyper focused on getting the ball into Dantas. This game, a little bit of the same, a little bit different, but I think that I'm probably going to do a deeper dive on that just to kind of like pull out the pieces, because I think it's a bigger conversation to be fair about. Because the knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, why did you leave this bad lineup in for so long? Why don't you just bring in these players that are obviously tired? You're on the road game, and discount like that there probably was some strategy there. But regardless of that, I think that I can see obvious things like play Timpson more, play Bibby more. They got some minutes, they got some looks. They weren't super hot themselves, but they showed effort. And I think that the Fever need to find out like what is that next rotation of players and how do we get them better looks, because we saw, Timpson getting in there, but Bibby took forever to get into the game. And so those are just kind of the questions that start to spark up for me of like why are we going to these other looks that aren't being successful and we're continuing to go back to them. Sydney Colson, for example, like didn't hurt us like tonight necessarily like stats wise. She didn't have a bunch of turnovers, anything like that. She didn't score either. She was 0 for 3, had a rebound and assist, but that was it. But she was in there when damage was being done. And so I think that that is kind of like the next kind of question of like, okay, we have these players that are bench players that aren't playing as many minutes. These players should be more energized, being able to back up our starters. That's kind of not happening. So I like to see more of that, more effort, at least from that bench side, hopefully in future games, because we know they have the potential and they know they can pop off. Just tonight was not that night. And the starters held their own. I think it was like 89 to 90 points of the starters in this game. So really it's that little last percent and the margin of errors. And we could have won this game down the stretch, which I think that is ultimately like my big takeaway is like, hey, the Sparks are a good team. We're on the road. Team is tired, but they still dug deep and pulled those starters back off that bench in victory hour and ran them down, made them sweat, almost had a huge comeback. So props to the team for putting in the effort. Props to Kelsey Mitchell for having a baller game and the rest of the stars tonight, because they did show up and play tonight and tried to eke it out at the end. Next up is going to be a really tough road game against the Mercury, mainly because Satu is back. There's no more turmoil there apparently, and also on top of that, they're going to want to get their lick back. Like that they're going to be salty about losing to the Fever in their hometown. Like I don't know who they're going to boo, but maybe the Mercury fans are going to boo somebody. Maybe they'll just boo our team in general. I have no idea what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to be entertaining either way. But man, if we can sneak in a win at the end of our road, that would be great. But we'll have to see how this game plays out. Hopefully the team gets some rest and they can put their best foot forward for that game. But comment down below, let me know what your favorite play of the game was. Who was your MVP? And remember, as always, you're going to be amazing today because you are amazing. And I'll catch you next episode.